So welcome to the Untamed and Unapologetic podcast. This is a podcast for women that are boldly stepping into the second halves of our lives with a little fire and passion. And if you've ever felt that midlife has been a time when things are slowing down and, just screeching to a halt for you, we are going to rewrite that story. That's why we're here. And we're going to try and change that story. We want to rewrite it. We want to reclaim our health, our vitality, our sexuality, our energy, and we want to free everyone from their shame and bring joy back into your lives. So each episode we're going to dive into honest conversations about health and wisdom and how you can live your life fully and fiercely and without apology. So buckle up, because your best chapter isn't behind you. It is just getting started.
Woo!
Yes. Exactly.
Let's do it! Well, we are going to introduce ourselves first. We are sisters.
Yes.
I'm the younger one. I'm the younger sisters. My name is Christy Gadolini. I am a nutrition therapy practitioner. I'm also a facilitator of 90 breathwork. I also consider myself a label I give myself as Auntie, because Laura will see she has a beautiful daughter, and I have a nephew who's a rock star, so they're a huge part of my life. My first career was in the law enforcement, and I retired as a homicide detective from the Chicago Police Department, and then I've always been into holistic health, nutrition. More recently got into breath work, and I'm also, I would say, a recovering endurance athlete, although I might have one or two long distances in me left. I've always been a huge athlete, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell, and let's give it to Laura.
My name is Laura Mealy, and I'm a fitness professional. I've worked in the fitness industry my entire career. I have a master's degree in exercise science. I have done everything in the fitness industry, from personal trainer, group fitness. I have a background. I'm also an endurance athlete, semi-retired endurance athlete, but I coach triathletes. I've done 6 or 7 full Ironmans, multiple, I don't know how many marathons, whatever. But also I'm familiar with kettlebells and weightlifting, Olympic lifting, and currently delving into the high rocks arena. If you're not sure what that is, it's spelled HYROX. You can Google it. Anyway, so also been athletic my whole life. I'm an aspiring, going to work on my background in sex therapy and coaching. So that's sort of my next leap in my second career, working on that. I'm a mom to a beautiful and sassy, talented 13-year-old daughter. And so that's sort of me in a nutshell. But we're here to hopefully help and inspire a lot of women that are in midlife that deal with a lot of crap, and again, get free of shame and learn a little about themselves and realize that they're not alone in all of the sort of stuff that's going on in and around their lives, and know that they can embrace what's going on and have some fun sort of in the second sort of stage that we're in.
It's like we're told that our first half is kind of where we're young, where it's all at, and then your second half of life is just kind of like you're getting older and you're just, you're put out to pasture. That's kind of the message, but I think a lot of it's changing, and a lot of women that is changing, so we're here to help women through that transition in the second part of their lives to make it even better. Like, this is it. This is more fun in a different way.
In a different way.
So our first 2 episodes, we're going to do a part 1 and part 2. We're going to kind of do an overview of some questions that we want to dive deeper into in previous or upcoming episodes. But we're just going to start kind of a little lighter, and then as we get going, we're going to dig in. So we really want to know from you guys what you want to hear more of. So if there's a question like, oh yeah, please talk more about this, or please have somebody that specializes this on, that's kind of what the first 2 episodes are going to be about. So we're going to dive into some questions and kind of go back and forth and talk about our experience of midlife, sensuality, self-care, body image,
all that good stuff.
All that good stuff. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Question 1.
All right, question. I'll start. So, what does pleasure mean to you outside of what you've been told it should look like?
So are we talking about pleasure in general, or are we talking about specifically sexual pleasure?
Yeah.
What are we talking about
That's a
here?
good
Are we talking
question.
about, are we talking about just enjoying,
Yeah.
life, or are we talking about sexual pleasure? Because those are 2 very different things, right?
Yeah.
That we've been told. I think as women, we've been told we should enjoy life, but the message around should we enjoy sex, those have been mixed messages.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah,
think
so
about
like
it, you know?
pleasure overall, I think we kind of all know like what that kind of looks like, but when it gets to sensuality and our sexual pleasure, what do you feel you've been told it should look like for women, and even women in their midlife?
I think, generally speaking, and I can only speak from my experience, I think here in the United States, right? Obviously, I can't speak for women in other cultures and countries, but here I think in the U.S. and specifically in the Midwest, and growing up in what I'd say was a standard, Christian/Catholic home. I mean, our parents weren't super religious, but we grew up in a Catholic household. It was sort of not really talked about, and it was just something that sex was something that you did, when you got married to have kids, and if you did it. Now, you and I weren't particularly shamed about it. It wasn't shameful, but it just wasn't talked about.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't shameful in our household, but it wasn't also talked about either. So we were never really encouraged to, enjoy sex. It was just sort of like, if you did it, you should make sure that, you don't get pregnant.
Right.
Essentially, that was really the message. Essentially, the message was, if you're going to have sex before you're married, don't get an STI.
Yes.
Don't get chlamydia or herpes or whatever.
That's the message, yes.
And don't get pregnant.
It was all about like fear and safety.
Yeah. Don't get pregnant, don't get an STI. So basically, don't enjoy yourself at all. Screw you. Or
maybe it was assumed that it was never like told to you that that's like part of it, or how to go about that.
How do you enjoy yourself?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And I know I brought up before the whole going to a Catholic, being brought up in a Catholic parish, going to a Catholic school. Like, it was never pushed on me like sex was bad necessarily, but the like a subconscious program. I was saying that the Virgin Mary, her being a virgin, and I didn't realize this till later in life. Like, to be a virgin is like upheld and a beautiful thing, and I was like, well. Okay, that's like a program that you don't realize can run really deep, because now you're losing your virginity. What does that actually mean for you? Or she was this, we prayed to her. You would lit candles.
Yeah,
she was like, this woman. So that's a program that's probably running in the background that if you don't even realize it's there, until I got older and I was like, oh my gosh, I would like pray to this person that's a virgin. Like, but what happens when you're not, right? So it's these like subtle things that you don't realize are affecting your life, until you start to deal with them.
And I don't think we're saying that from a position of, for anyone who is a devout Catholic or very religious, that there's anything wrong with my story or being a virgin or waiting for marriage to have sex if that is your choice. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
but I think the story of, that running in the background, that if you do, lose your virginity prior to that, sort of like, then like you sort of question yourself, like, okay, then what kind of person am I? Am I now a bad person that I've, done this, which was not, apparently that didn't affect me.
I know I'm not bad.
Apparently I didn't worry about it.
I'm not bad.
We'll get into that later.
Yeah, so again,
but
if any of these questions resonate, or you would like, I'd love to go deeper.
So
I
think a lot of us, and when I say us, I think a lot of women can relate that many of us were unable to, sex was something, and sex was also more of a performance that we did for the man, right? It was more, you do it, and is he having a good time?
Yeah. Right, exactly. To give somebody else pleasure.
Right. But like, am I supposed to, lie here on my back? Am I supposed to make a noise in a certain way? Am I supposed to, like, how does this work?
That is really not talked about at all. And you kind of learn from your friends or other people, like you said you were lucky to have.
I did have like a boyfriend, probably my first significant partner that was that taught me anything about myself was a guy in college, and he was several years old. He was like an older student, and he was one of those guys that I think he probably came to school like in his, after high school, and then like he had screwed around and got kicked out or did one of those things, and then he came back. So he was like 21 already. I was like 18, and so he was a little older. So he had a little bit more experience in life. Obviously, not a ton. He's still a young adult like I was, but he sort of had a vested interest in me and sort of like my pleasure. And it was like the first time I was with a guy that actually was able to show me sort of like,
and that's so interesting.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's just
like, and he was like, no, let me, like, he was, we'll get into it, but we're not going to scare everyone away on the first episode. I mean, maybe that doesn't scare some of you, but
the point is, it's like you don't like. You just happened to be dating somebody that showed you
I got lucky.
Experience younger. I think
I got lucky.
Yeah, generally
personally.
It's like and then a lot of things we don't talk about with our friends, even as we get older. So let's go on to the second question. When did you first learn your sexuality was meant to serve someone else, if that's what was told, and how has this shaped your experience of desire?
Well, I think that's just a continuation of what we were just talking about. Like the early the programming of what what many of us have experienced in growing up, and that you can sort of continue that from the Virgin Mary story to being the good girl, right? That you have to be the good girl, and you're pure, and not that I'm or either of us is advocating necessarily.
It's just advocating for no judgment.
I'm advocating for no judgment. I'm advocating for women, young women, old women, middle-aged women, whatever women, to have a choice and not be judged, because from very early on, like high school, probably even before that, right, even junior high, if you're a young woman who, even if you're not sexually active, right, like fully sexually active, even if you're just like, kissing boys or whatever, you get labeled as a slut. Right? Like early on. But the guys, what are they? They're cool, it's a conquest, it's great. but you're assault.
Right.
And it's like, really? Like,
Yeah.
what?
And I also feel the energy of how if you are somebody that's, that could be almost like a trauma response, as in you're going around pleasing men for the attention or just to give, or you want that, you want something from the outside, or it can be like I share my body, or I am with men because it's for my own pleasure, or I feel feeling like sacred in your body. You have to learn that first, and that was something that was not, again, explained to me or shared with me. Like, it's up to you, and you can do either or. You can go, you could have sex with you want, or you could choose to wait till your marriage, but whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're good with that decision and that you feel good in your body and sacred in your body. You're not doing it just because somebody told you should.
Right.
That's
right.
It's
a reaction.
Or a reaction to, like, you want that attention, or you want to please, because I feel like I've done it to please other people, and I was like, because it could go both ways, right? And that's kind of what we're discussing. It's going to be just like, I want attention for somebody, or I want somebody to love me, so I'm going to give them sexual pleasure.
Right. I want to feel loved, or I want attention. So
it's one way. It's easy for women to give that. Get attention from that.
I think for me personally, I've always, we can head shrink me from now until like next Tuesday. I think there's probably like a ton of people that, if they listen to this, there'd be a lot of therapists who are like, she's all fucked up. But whatever. I'm 53 years old. If you had shrink me as much, I've done a lot of therapy. So at this point in my life, and I'm not saying I won't do more, because I do, but I've come to accept a lot of the ways I am. I'm fairly, for the most part, fairly comfortable with who I am. At this point in my life, but
takes that long sometimes.
Takes a long time. Not that I still don't. I think I still value therapy quite a bit. I think it's important. It's like a practice of anything else. But from a very young age, good, bad, or indifferent, like I said, we can head shrink me about this, till the cows come home. I have, and again, this is something further down the line we can get into, but I have been able to sort of separate, sort of very much so at masculine quality, sort of separate my physical sort of sexuality and my emotional intimacy. So for me,
that's another what's the word for it? Stigma that I think is a falsehood, because I've heard women say, or older women say to me, men are not just, because there's definitely emotional men, but more physical, which I believe they are. But you don't need a connection, and women always need this emotional connection. And I'm just like, we're also physical beings. Right. We're not all, and we're all different. So what you're saying, I totally agree. Like, there's a lot of women, like, sometimes I just need, like, the physical being, the sexual part of me, just the reptilian brain, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like, I don't need to love the guy. And we're always told, but we're going to have this emotional connection. And I listened to other podcasts that were talking about, like, women will connect. And sometimes maybe you do. But I think that's also a stigma that's not always true, and not always true for other women. Like, that you're, like, going to fall in love with every guy that touches you. And I've definitely been in situations where, like, I've had a connection with someone I dated, for a length of time, not someone I've gone on, a couple days with, but I'm talking about, someone that I've been more involved with, someone that I would consider a boyfriend or whatever, and where, to me, sure, the sex was important and it was good, or great, but the intimacy piece, like, I would have been more upset, if they brought another woman to our favorite restaurant over if I found out they would have gotten a blowjob. like that would piss me off. Emotional connection.
Right, like that would piss me off more if I had to pick. You
that's
know,
the whole
like-
thing where people can
like-
emotionally cheat on your partner when
You
you
can,
get
oh,
married.
for sure.
And that's
Yeah. There's all kinds. But anyway, yeah. So I think like, we are programmed like there's that whole good girl, thing. And again, and again, I'm not. I don't think either of us is, preaching that you have to be one way or the other. I just
we're exploring.
And I just would like people not to sort of judge people's decision around which path that they're choosing, and also, women sort of our age, sort of, especially, there are a lot of women our age that are either have never been married, right, or divorced, right, and so we're in a place where, or this is a lot. There's a lot of women at our age that are in marriages that are either sexless or fairly sexless. Like there's not a lot of sex.
Sure.
So you're in a place where you're either maybe not having sex, or because you're in a sexless marriage or relationship, or you are single and you're maybe second guessing your singleness because maybe you have gone out and you've had some one night stands, or maybe you've had sex with a couple guys that you've only gone on one date or 2 dates,
like monogamous dating, you've gone
dates and you've had sex with this guy and this guy, so, and maybe you're judging yourself for that. And I just want to help people get to a place that where either if they are feeling guilty about it, that maybe they we sort of help, whether it's us listening here or talking to friends, that they can sort of figure out, why that is, or they can get through that, and they can either accept like where they're at, and they're like, okay, no, I'm okay, this is okay, or they can make a shift. They stop judging themselves over this. Getting some clarity. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have a lot more questions, but we're going to end it here for today because we're at our mark.
Yes.
So if you guys, if this episode stirs something in you and know that you are not alone, we're going to be digging in. Share this with somebody. Let us know what you want to hear more of.
Yes.
And what does pleasure look like for you? So with that,
go for it.
Stay bold.
Yes.
Stay wild, and stay unapologetically you.
That's right.